All the birds taking to the wing. Here we have both trees. Both are in bloom. Red poncianas. Now the yellow ones. Quite a bit later. A very different kind of flower. I'm going to compare the two so you can recall the difference. I'm not sure if even I noticed that before. I just noticed the two different colors, but the flower of the red one is much more ornate and complex. And especially with that one more beautiful petal inside the flower. Not as clearly identifiable at this moment. But there was one that had a more ornate structure, color structure. Let's see if we find one here. Yes, see this one inside. There's always one like this. These petals are much bigger. The flower is much bigger. And there's the better one up there with that ornate petal. The yellow ones don't seem to have that feature. The vast variety of nature. With smaller flowers, simpler. So let's wander over here. Maybe we'll wander down to see how the shore is. I haven't walked on that part of the shore for years because the water was always up to here in high winter, and then it wouldn't go down that far in the course of the summer. But this year is down quite a bit. And I've seen it down further here. In some years we had to go out very far to get enough depth to swim. There's still a little stream running here. So we have the last spot here of Joseph's story with his brothers. It's amazing how his initial dream that riled them so grievously that they would all bow down before him, the sheaves bending before himself, his sheaf. And now they're actually bowing down and expressing themselves as his slaves. They're actually giving him a title or a recognition that he immediately disowns, which is wonderful. And the title they are giving him is basically total absolute power over them. And in that sense, they throw away their own dignity. They were trying to sell him into slavery, and now they try to gain an advantage by offering themselves as slaves. And this is not the dignity of the child of God. And this also shows us what human machinations do when we try to resolve problems and fears and challenges from our own little head and our own little heart, which is filled with fear. We think the worst and plan the worst and expect the worst, and it's not that the worst might not happen. The worst can happen. People can kill, but it's extraordinary the fortitude of the disciple of Jesus, the way in the gospel he encourages them not to be afraid. The disciple of Jesus has a new liberty, a new freedom, an extraordinary dignity, even if persecuted. I don't know if you remember those Coptic martyrs, been very famous. There a number of years ago in the high reign of ISIS, who were martyred in I think it was in Algeria, in Libya, and the coast, on the water edge of the Mediterranean. And afterwards, through lip reading interpretation, it was visible because the ISIS had filmed their moments of torture, and they were forgiving them. These martyrs were forgiving their persecutors. Imagine the extraordinary sense of their own dignity, of their own, the fullness of goodness in their hearts, their victory over fear. Amazing liberation of the human heart, and amazing enslavement of the human heart when we try to apply our solutions of hatred, of fear, of anxiety, of anguish. How our heart is so deeply damaged by sin, by selfish considerations. It's like this wasted tree here, underwater for years. And I remember actually when the first high winters we had, I used to swim out to here by this tree, and there was another one also over here that was standing up. And they were alive still because the water was just rising up on them. So they had enjoyed many years of low water and had flourished here. Like all these are all dead as well. Yeah, I haven't walked out here for years. In fact, one of the consecrated women here at Magdala, she would walk all the way from here up to Genosar in the early morning, I remember. And the jeeps would, where those two boats are, would race up and down on the sand. It'll be interesting to see how much vegetation recovers here, or if the authorities will decide to fill up the lake because the structures are in place. Look at all the shells. The place is filled with them. And it's a pity when our heart gets drained of God's love. A lot of life perishes in our heart. Now we need to open up the floodgates to let in God's love, to open up those channels of living water that can bring back full life in our hearts. And obviously most of that is God's grace, but it's left to us to open our hearts for it. I'm standing at the door and knocking, let me in. And the famous artist who did that picture left the handle on the inside. Somebody complained, oh, you missed the handle on the door. And he said, no, that handle's on the inside. the dignity of the human being created in the image and likeness of God, which we are called to respect in the other, but also in ourselves, and not to trample it by our own materialistic indulgence, our own complexes of superiority and pride. I heard a commentary this morning from the priest from Frankfurt, a German commentary, where he underlines how the patriarchs treated the other people, the Canaanites, in Hebron so correctly, and everything was done with proper exchange. Abraham insisted on that, on buying the field, the cave for the burial of his wife Sarah. Now all the patriarchs are buried, and it's all done with due order and respect and just payment. Be glad, you lowly ones, may your hearts be glad. Our psalm today is Psalm 105. Be glad, you lowly ones, may your hearts be glad. You descendants of Abraham, his servant, sons of Jacob, his chosen ones. He, the Lord, is our God, and no human being is our God. The last time I was out here walking, the guest house wasn't finished. Maybe it was the time we inaugurated Dukin Altum back that far, 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Maybe not that far back, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Well, anyway, people, good for reminiscing. Let us continue in our practical life with the great respect inside of our families and the families of others. The great development of good relationships with everybody. God bless you. See you later, alligators.